I grew up hearing the phrase, you need to try harder. And now as an adult, I have to remind myself all the time, Esther, you're trying way too hard. Just relax. So in this video today, I'm going to just wing it. I'm not going to use a script. I'm going to speak straight from the heart about two kinds of losses: the loss from a death and the loss due to the breakup of a relationship. Hi, I'm Esther. Welcome to my channel of It's Never Too Late, where we age boldly, laugh loudly, and talk about living life through all its ups and downs after the age of 40 and beyond. First, I want to talk about the loss through death. I was 41 years old when my husband committed suicide. He had been in an auto accident 10 years prior to his death and lived his life in a wheelchair. He tried to live a productive life. He went back to school, got a degree, but in the end, depression won the battle. I was devastated. I didn't know how to deal with life because, you see, I was the chronic follower. I didn't know how to make decisions on my own. When I married him, I married the opposites attract. He was outgoing, he was outspoken, he stood his ground. He was all the things I admired in a person, all the things I wished I could be. I had lost a husband, a father to my 4 sons, and the decision maker. I was fortunate that I had those 4 sons because they were my source of support. Usually you hear that a parent is the support for the children, but in my case, my sons were there and supported me when I so desperately needed it. I struggled with guilt and grief. Grief because of the loss, guilt because it was due to a suicide. And I think in almost any death, we probably all go through those symptoms of, why didn't I do this? How come I didn't do that? I really should have. I struggled with that guilt and grief for 4 months. I had a 30-pound weight loss. I was down to almost skin and bones. And then I found a solution, albeit it was a temporary solution at the time. But I slapped on a Band-Aid. I was able to laugh. I was able to have fun. And you guessed it, that Band-Aid was a relationship. So for close to 2 years, I traveled back and forth, and he traveled back and forth an hour's drive to see each other throughout the week or the weekends. And it was all good. But I knew I wouldn't relocate my sons from school. It would be too hard for them. And I knew he wouldn't relocate his sons from school. He was rooted where he was at. So we decided to call it quits. We were wasting each other's time. I was the one who made the decision to do that, but it didn't take long for me to regret that decision. I was consumed with grief after the breakup of that relationship. And it made me feel guilty because I thought, I'm reacting even worse with this breakup than I did with the loss of my husband. And so then those guilty feelings started creeping back in there again. And I worked for a law firm, and right next door there was a psychologist's office. So in tears, as I was leaving work one day, I stopped in and made an appointment. The psychologist listened to my story. He didn't say too much the first few visits that I made to him. He just let me talk as he listened. And I told him about the guilty feelings of, why am I acting like this? It's even worse than when my husband died. My psychologist said, let me explain something to you, Esther. There's a difference between the loss and a death and the loss of a relationship. In a death, it's final. You know they're not coming back. In a relationship, there's that hope that you can hang on to, that maybe it will work out again. And coupled with that hope, there's a feeling of rejection. He no longer wants you, whether you want to accept that or not. That is a devastating part of the grief. He no longer wanted me. It was a struggle. I'd go maybe 2 or 3 days feeling pretty good, and then I'd crash and burn. It's all a part of grieving. If you're grieving over the loss, whether it's a death or a relationship, know that it's not unusual to feel good for a while and then crash and burn. It's a part of grieving. So let yourself grieve. As I worked on getting my life back together, getting past my depression, I knew I had to make a change. I had to overcome that chronically shy personality of mine. And with that decision, my journey began to a transformation into a woman who became an artist, a teacher, a singer, an author, and an inspirational speaker. How do you get through that guilt and grief? You keep putting one foot in front of the other, one step at a time, one day at a time, 1 week at a time, 1 month at a time, and you'll make it through. I did it, and I know you can too. Are you struggling, or have you ever struggled with guilt and grief? I wonder how you got through yours. Comment in the section below. You know, there's so many out there that struggle with this, and maybe your story might help somebody else.